Don't judge each day by the harvest you reap, but by the seeds you plant. Hi, I'm Linda Watson-Call. So glad you're here for today's episode of Dragonfly Soup. When I was younger, I never looked forward to the fall. Oh yeah, I enjoyed the spectacular colors of the leaves as well as the crunching sound when they fell to the ground and we jumped into them. But for me, fall meant winter. Cold days, dark days, dreary days. I guess if I could have, I would have hibernated. Today, I actually look forward to the crispness of the air and the shortening of the days. Fall still means winter, but hibernation in winter has a completely different meaning for me. This is the time I need to reflect, evaluate, and recharge before starting another year. Now that I live on a farm, I see a lot of things differently. Each season has its own rhythm and activities that are associated with it. Spring is revitalization and planting. Summer is tending to the crops. Fall is harvesting. But winter is for growth in a completely different sense. Take this pumpkin seed. We collected pumpkin seeds from last year's pumpkin patch, and we gathered our pumpkins and processed them. Some turned into pies, while others we made beer and wine with. And the biggest ones? Well, those are the jack-o'-lanterns that decorate our barn. We don't collect all the pumpkins. We leave the ones that don't look ripe, and we definitely leave the ones that the raccoons tried to eat. And I'm sure we missed a few good ones that were hidden in the vine. In any event, once the frost hit and all the plants die off, my husband rakes the vegetation to the side of the plot. This spring, when he went out to plant the crops for this year's harvest, he made a very interesting discovery. It was spring, but he already had pumpkin vines growing. He wondered if they would amount to much since they were buried all winter. And this particular winter, it was cold. But he decided to leave them. He also decided that since there were so many vines already growing, he wouldn't bother planting any more pumpkins this year. We could keep our seeds for next year. Being a good farmer, he took care of the pumpkin patch just like he took care of all the other vegetables in the garden. Today, he's glad we did, because we still have a big pumpkin harvest. And because these pumpkins were already in the ground all winter, our pumpkins started to come up faster than expected. We will definitely be making more pies, beer, and wine, and the rest will be used for decorations. But the best part is, this year's pumpkins didn't seem to take as much work as last year's did. He didn't have to plant them, they were already pre-planted. They weren't in any rows, so he didn't spend any time weeding them. He just let them be where they decided to grow, and we have gotten more than enough this year. So why am I telling you this? Robert Louis Stevenson wrote, "Don't judge each day by the harvest you reap, but by the seeds you plant." When I see a pumpkin seed like this, it doesn't mean much. It definitely doesn't look like it has a lot of potential. But with faith and understanding that if we want to raise our own food, we need to plant the seeds, and then we hope for the best. Now look at this pumpkin seed as if it is your seed. This seed represents your ideas, your thoughts, your goals. Now, what if you say, this idea could be a good thing, but you're not sure right now, so you put it in the back of your mind. Maybe even write down someplace where you'll see it from time to time. Just like our pumpkin seeds that were pushed to the side of the garden, your idea, your goal is buried. Will it stay buried? Will it rot away and never be thought of again? Or will something happen to you that makes you think of that goal? In this instance, you will know that it is time for it to grow and bloom. And you will start to nurture that thought. You will do things that will make that goal happen. And you will finally achieve the success you only thought about a long time ago. We often think today that when we have an idea to do something, it should happen right now. And if it takes longer than a year, then maybe it was a bad idea, and we wonder if we even think it's possible. we never consider that the timing isn't right. If our pumpkin seed tried to sprout in the winter, it would have died. And I'll admit, 5 months isn't that long, but to a pumpkin seed, 5 months could be forever. I've mentioned before about my love of horses. It's something that I've had since I was 3 or 4 years old. And this city girl was determined to get a horse no matter how much her parents tried to explain that there was no room in a city lot for a horse. But it was a dream, an idea. It was a goal to get a horse one day, someday. By the time I was a teenager, the love of horses was still there, but I understood better that they couldn't be kept on our 20 by 75-foot lot. So I buried that plot, and it stayed buried for quite a few years, decades actually. Almost 50 years is a long time to hold on to a dream, but I'm so glad I did. It took almost 50 years for the ground to be fertile enough for my dream to come true. Any earlier, and it surely would have died. So what about you? Do you have any ideas or goals that you've buried and are waiting for the right time for them to bloom and blossom? Or are you someone who reached your goal, had your dream come true after what seemed to be an eternity? I invite you to share in the comments below or in a private message how you achieved your long-awaited goal or what dream you have planted and know that eventually it will come true. Don't forget to click like for this week's episode, and while you're at it, share it with your friends. And I'll see you next week, right here on Dragonfly Soup. Here's to our transformation and our best year ever.